With the NFL draft concluding and rookie drafts in clear sight, people want to know, what are some of the best and worst fantasy landing spots? We talk about that next on Draft Brothers. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us. Welcome back to another episode of Draft Brothers. I am your host, Jeff Hasley, and I'm joined by my draft brother, Dan Turner. What's up, Dan?
Just getting over the post-draft hangover.
Exactly. Yes. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about landing spots for fantasy purposes. So who had the best landing spot? Who had the worst landing spot? We're going to talk about that and discuss these by position so you can be more informed when it comes to your rookie drafts that are coming up here. So let's go ahead and get this kicked off. Best landing spot quarterback. Let's go ahead and start with Bryce Young. I love the fit with Bryce Young, with Frank Reich, with the whole kind of a redo process that Carolina has and what they're planning on doing. Bryce Young, I think, is just a great fit. He's very cerebral, understands things really well. His pre-snap, post-snap processing is perfect for what they're trying to do. Carolina plans on having a heavy RPO type of offense, and Young is like the perfect quarterback for that. So I really like the fit for Bryce Young. I think a lot of people do. I think it would be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't think that. What are your thoughts on Young?
I mean, I like him. I think, coming into the draft, the only question really was his height. Not for that, he would have been the slam dunk number one overall pick, which he was anyway. I think, he goes to a decent situation on a young team with a good defense. So it's a pretty good spot. And he's also in arguably probably the weakest division in the entire NFL. I mean, if we're being honest,
that definitely helps.
Contend with is like Baker Mayfield with Derek Carr and Desmond Ridder. So,
yeah.
He can step right in immediately and win a couple of games for you. So
yeah, I think it's also safe to say that he has his down the road number one wide receiver in Jonathan Mingo. At least that's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
That the Panthers were able to get in the second round. So, he's got some weapons already. So
yeah, they signed Miles Sanders, so he has a running back that can take the load off him a little bit. So it's a good spot.
All right. What do you think about Anthony Richardson?
I mean, I love the landing spot for Anthony Richardson. We all thought it was going to be Will Levis to Indy. Thank God it wasn't. I think in terms of landing spot, it's probably the best out of all the quarterbacks, both in fit and in terms of the weaponry he has around him. I think the new head coach, Shane Steichen, coming from, teaching Jalen Hurts how to, acclimate to the NFL, is a perfect coach for bringing Anthony Richardson up to speed, seeing as they're kind of the same kind of player. Jalen Hurts, had the wheels coming with some passion question marks, and Anthony Richardson is the same. Having Jonathan Taylor, having Michael Pittman, drafting Josh Downs, having Jelani Woods, having a decent offensive line is really all you can ask for a rookie quarterback to come in and perform. So I think that in terms of where he could have gone, it's definitely the best spot for the kind of structure he's going to need to end up succeeding at the pro level.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that he was selected in the top 4, that gives him some good draft capital. One question I think that a lot of people have is he going to start? If not, when will he? What can we rely on him for this year, let alone, of course, as a dynasty prospect? I think we all like him. And he's probably one of 3, if not 4 picks in Superflex leagues, as in the rookie draft. So will he start, do you think?
He should. What's the point really of starting Gardner Minshew?
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. I just kind of hope that it's not too soon, kind of throw him to the wolves. But
I mean, he's going to be thrown to the wolves. Like, I get the whole concept of having him sit on the bench and acclimate to, I guess, the speed of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But the best way to do that is playing. I don't think anyone realistically sees Indy having any kind of postseason Super Bowl hopes this year. So take this year, build the system that Steichen has, let Richardson get comfortable in it, and the more experiences he's going to get at the pro level, the better. Like this is a guy that didn't have a lot of starts in college to begin with, so I think the more that he actually gets to play, the better it'll be for him.
All right. Let's add another quarterback to this mix here. I'm going to say Hendon Hooker with Detroit. Hooker, he fell to the third round, but you know what? He landed in a good offense there with Detroit. You got Jared Goff ahead of him. It can allow him to heal from his ACL injury and learn the offense and just understand, how the NFL, how Detroit's offense will be slightly different from college. So he'll have some time. And I think that adds value to him being a good quarterback down the line. And another reason why I like him, I like that fit. Sounds like you do too.
I love the fit. I mean, besides Anthony Richardson, I think, Hooker landed also in a great situation for him. I know a lot of people are kind of worried about his age, him being, I think, already 25. But, so you have him for, let's say, 6-7 years, and he's 32, if that's what you want to do with him. And you get a talent that should have probably been a first-round talent if he didn't, mess up his leg in college. And it's someone that you already have a system that's built in with, again, good weaponry with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and Jamar Gibbs, Sam Laporta, et cetera, to come in and succeed. It's not like you're married to Jared Goff, or you shouldn't be anyway. So, give Hooker the chance to heal up, learn the offense, and then, next year or the year after, have him start. It's definitely a more long-term play in Dynasty, but something where you see Hooker going like the second or third round of your draft. It's definitely a shot you should take.
All right, I agree. Let's switch over to running back. I think the top running back here that is the best landing spot that I would think that everyone would agree with this is Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. So Bijan's got top 10 draft capital. He is on a team that ran the ball fairly well last year. So the offensive line is gelling. They're putting together a unit that I think is going to be really good fit for him. We already mentioned that the NFC South is kind of in limbo right now. So Bijan Robinson, he seems like a great fit in Atlanta, and he should be able to hit the ground running, so to speak, in year one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much to add to that, really. I mean, Bijan was going to be good no matter where Bijan went. And the fact that his only real competition is Tyler Algier, I'm not really worried about it. It's an ascending offense. Hopefully, Arthur Smith, Desmond Ridder can work out. But he's going to get carries, like you said. So it's really a slam dunk that he was going to be the first overall pick, and he's still the first overall pick in rookie drafts. So nothing really changed.
All right, let's move over to Devon Achane of Miami. Of course, I think he's another big winner here in terms of the NFL draft. I mean, you've got him coming into an offense that I think is tailor-made for his skill set. You've got Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson as well on that team. But Achane, I think, could be someone who could supplant them maybe mid-season. He seems like it would be a really good fit for him. Of course, we know that the NFL loves young players, especially young running backs, and he's kind of next in line. What do you think about his chances of taking over that backfield fairly early?
I mean, they're pretty good. That's what should happen. I mean, Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are good, solid, dependable NFL veteran players, but they're not people that should stop Achane from climbing the depth chart and getting to that number one spot. They're probably going to do a committee because that's just how Dolphins run things with their running back room. But he should be the head of that, like you said, sooner rather than later.
Next on my list here is Kendre Miller, and he's with New Orleans. So he's going to most likely share some duties with Jamal Williams, who they signed in the offseason. But you've got Alvin Kamara's suspension, which is kind of up in the air, as well as Kamara, of course, just getting older himself. Is Miller someone who could overtake Williams? Do you kind of see that? Or do you also see a little bit of a committee, but at the same time, maybe end of the year or beginning of next year, it's going to be the Miller show? What's your thoughts there?
I definitely see a committee there. I think that they signed Jamal Williams to be that goal line short yardage back that he was in Detroit, and the Alvin Kamara situation is up in the air multiple fronts. One, because of his off the field situation, and two, because he is getting up there in age. And what does he look like in the long term plans of the Saints? Going forward. There's no doubt that he obviously is a very talented player and has been a great fantasy asset, but how much longer can we say that for? So I definitely think that Miller ends up being part of the committee with Jamal Williams. I don't see him being the head guy unless Kamara is out. But it's definitely a good landing spot for the future for him, because I don't see neither Kamara nor Williams to be there in New Orleans long term, and Miller will eventually win out.
All right, let's take a look at Chase Brown, who was drafted by the Bengals. That's a pretty good spot for running backs in Cincinnati, especially with Joe Mixon kind of iffy, with his legal situations that he's going through. Not to mention the fact that he's just older himself and is kind of in the sunset of his career. So Chase Brown is someone that I like. I'm not necessarily sure if he is, I don't think he's going to start. I think that's Mixon's job, unless he decides that, hey, I'm not going to take a pay cut, I'm going to go somewhere else. I think that's most likely the case. Mixon's going to stay where he is. They're on the AFC, one of the top teams in the AFC. Why would you move? But Brown, I like him to kind of be like a committee type of back who can kind of take some carries away at times from Mixon and kind of give the Bengals a little bit of a 1-2 punch there. What are your thoughts on Chase Brown?
I mean, I love him there. I think that Mixon is, more towards the end of his Cincinnati career than towards the beginning. I think, having to replace Samaje Perine will definitely allow Chase Brown to get some carries, and his primary, competition right now is Travion Williams, who no one has seen or heard from since he got drafted. So I really think he steps right in and gets that direct backup spot, and as well as being that kind of change of pace back. And if Mixon survives this year, which he might not even do that, I definitely think they let go of him next year, and then that's Chase Brown's backfield for the next couple of years. So it's definitely a sneakier, better landing spot than a lot of these other running backs that might have been drafted higher. But in terms of also the quality of the offense, it's probably a top 3 offense. We can all agree in the NFL. So I definitely look to draft him, probably in the second round of rookie drafts. I think that eventually he'll pay out a lot better than a lot of the other guys that were projected to go ahead of him.
All right, here's another sleeper running back for fantasy drafts that I want to talk about, and that's Sean Tucker, who landed with the Buccaneers as an undrafted free agent. He had some medical situations, or I guess you could call it an issue, that kind of caused him to not get drafted. But I mean, he's someone who has a good combination of size, power, and speed, can catch the ball well, and he's in a great opportunity to at least get some carries, behind Rachaad White in Tampa. Tucker, before his health issues kind of came out, he was considered to be a running back that most likely was going to be a day 2 or day 3 guy. So I don't know. It's kind of a sleeper, a flyer, someone to keep an eye on, someone in the 3rd, 4th round of your draft to just kind of take a stab at and see if he stays. I mean, we've seen running backs before do really well when undrafted. Who knows? Maybe Tucker's the next one in line. What are your thoughts on Tucker?
Arian Foster.
I think, the way?
Yeah. I mean, I am shocked that he did not get drafted anywhere, not even in the 7th round. I think, a lot of us expected him to go somewhere. He's projected to go pretty high by pretty much everybody. And the fact that he didn't, he got to, choose where he goes. Yeah. Rachaad White is the guy right now in Tampa, but there's definitely, space behind him for carries and a running back of Sean Tucker's caliber. And if anything were to happen to White, Tucker is definitely good enough to take that those carries and run with it. Tampa Bay is kind of like in a rebuilding stage after post Brady. So I could definitely see them going with the two-headed, White Tucker monster at running back for the foreseeable future.
All right, that wraps us up for running backs. Let's talk about wide receivers. First one I want to talk about here is Jaylin Hyatt on the Giants. Now, the Giants have a fairly deep list of wide receivers in their depth chart, none of which are like elite, right? You've got Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, who kind of came on late last year, and Jaylin Hyatt. Well, we can't forget Wan'Dale Robinson, who's coming off an ACL, right, as well. And then Hyatt. So, I mean, he's going to fit into that mix there. The question is how much? And a lot of people think he's going to be, used and, infused into the offense right away. So I think that he's someone who could kind of surprise us as a rookie a little bit, especially if he can fulfill that deep threat that I think that he's most likely going to have. I'm curious what you're thinking about Hyatt and how he's going to fit in with the multitude of Giants receivers.
I mean, as much as it pains me to say this, I love that pick for them. They have about 70 slot guys, and then Paris Campbell. So, there's definitely, I think, room for Hyatt to, play a lot his rookie year, if not start immediately, because I mean, you have Campbell, Wan'Dale Robinson, and then maybe Isaiah Hodgins in front of him. I think he can be a supercharged version of what Darius Slayton gave him a couple of years ago as that deep threat kind of guy. But I think he's obviously a lot more talented than Slayton ever was. So I expect him to be, a key contributor early with, definitely fighting his way into that starting lineup a lot sooner rather than later.
All right. Here's someone that I want to talk about that a lot of people have, kind of raised their eyebrows to, and that's John. What?
Your guy.
My guy, yes. And that's Jonathan Mingo. So first, I want to share this with you. I saw this tweet on Twitter about 5 of the last 6 wide receivers taken as the first wide receiver in the second round of the last 6 drafts have been solid. You got Cortland Sutton in 2018, Deebo Samuel the year after, T. Higgins after that, Elijah Moore in 21. That's still, uncertain. Christian Watson last year, and then this year, Jonathan Mingo. So, I mean, Mingo, I think was a big winner in terms of his dynasty value, where he was drafted, and that the fact that he'll have the opportunity to kind of play. Well, number one, play with Bryce Young is going to be a big fit there, but also have the chance to kind of be the Panthers' main guy, take over that DJ Moore role. I don't think that's going to happen right off the bat, but there's potential for that to happen, and I think that's why a lot of people are excited about him. I'm kind of curious to hear what you think of Mingo, how he fits in with Terrace Marshall, DJ Shark, of course, Adam Thielen. How does he fit in with the Panthers offense now as well as moving forward?
I think he fits in, really well. I think he's going to be a great fit for them. He runs really good routes. I mean, he's basically a younger, more athletic version of what Adam Thielen is giving you. I think Thielen is pretty much done as a football player. I think.
I disagree with that.
Really?
Okay. I don't have a problem saying this. Yeah, he's 32 years old, but I think for the role that he needs to play, he doesn't necessarily have to be that strong type of do everything all receiver. So this is kind of like his sunset team, and I think he's going to give us what he can. I don't see him as someone to fade necessarily.
But I just think that his skill set and Mingo's skill set overlap too much for him to be locked in as any kind of long-term timeline for that slot role. Mm-hmm. Like the other guys, DJ Shark is a decent receiver. Terrace Marshall has a lot of question marks, but those are both outside guys. So the primary competition for Mingo's playing time is going to be Adam Thielen in the slot, at least in the beginning. So I like the fact that they got him like where the round that they got him in. Mm-hmm. I think that that kind of draft capital means that he's obviously someone that they see as a long-term piece to grow with Bryce Young. So I think that he probably won't start immediately. But I think by the middle of the year, towards the fantasy playoffs, I think he injects himself into that lineup, and then we see what he can do for you. He's definitely a good pick, probably in the second round of fantasy drafts. He's definitely in a good situation. I really would like to see how well he connects with Bryce, both now and in a couple of years.
I think he can play that big slot role well. And we've seen before where he takes a 5, 6, 7 yard gain and a catch and turned it into a longer gain. He's got tackle breaking skills. He has contested catch skills. He can do a lot of things well. He just hasn't done it as a complete full 100% effort in a season yet due to injuries, just due to the offense, due to just, him not necessarily, completely turning into that 100% all-out wide receiver that can, do everything. But he has the potential to do that, and I think that's what a lot of people are excited about. All right, let's switch over to Marvin Mims, who was Denver's pick, and I'm just kind of curious to see where he's going to fit in. You got Jerry Jeudy there, you've got Courtland Sutton, and of course Mims. Can he be someone that the team can be a little bit patient with while he kind of gets acclimated? I like the fit there, not necessarily early on. Kind of the common thread that we're seeing with some of these receivers is, hey, they're going to be good eventually. This year, it might take him a little bit.
I mean, I like it. I think that him being the personal pick of Sean Payton is a good indicator of what Denver thinks of him. I mean, we had all these rumors, before the draft that, Jeudy or Sutton or Patrick or Hamler everyone was leaving at some point, and none of them ended up doing that. But I think, it's kind of a when there's smoke, there's fire thing. And I trust the guy that Payton himself drafted over the guys that he kind of inherited. I think he had really good film coming out of college, and he's the kind of receiver that can definitely work himself into, a pretty decent role. Definitely won't be immediately because there's 16 other guys that currently, in front of him on the depth chart. So it really is going to depend on how he, handles training camp. So I think the round 2 investment works in his favor. Obviously, the 4.38 40-yard dash helps as well. But, until those other guys, kind of either get out of the way or he proves that he can, beat them out, it's going to be hard for Mims to contribute early. I think this is one of the guys, even though he has high draft capital, where you kind of draft him and stash him a little bit until we see how he develops.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about Zay Flowers, who's most likely going to be a top 6, 7, 8 type of, well, maybe not with Superflex, but definitely in the top 10, I think, as far as a rookie draft candidate. And he's landed with Baltimore. Of course, now you're thinking Baltimore, they're a running team, man. They don't really pass the ball an awful lot. Wide receivers, if you're on Baltimore and you're a wide receiver, that you're not a great fantasy investment. That's going to change, I think, with Todd Monken coming in to coordinate the offense. And I think we're going to see a faster, higher tempo offense, get receivers into open space more. This, in my opinion, favors Zay Flowers. Odell Beckham he's there for 1 year, maybe tops. Rashad Bateman is someone who is coming off an injury. We haven't really seen what he can do as of yet. So I'm a little bit unsure of him. Flowers coming in, he's got an opportunity to, kind of be a big piece in that offense. I think it depends on who you ask. I think Flowers will be pretty good starting year 1. What do you think about Flowers?
I think this is one we kind of disagree on a little bit. I mean, I'm one of the people with Flowers that need to see it. And I understand that they have like a new offensive coordinator and it's going to be a new offensive system, but I need to see how that system works out before I can, say it's a good landing spot for Flowers, because, it's been a lot of years, and again, it's a different coordinator, but there hasn't really been a wide receiver that's been reliable in Baltimore for a number of years. He has a lot of competition. Rashad Bateman was also, a high pick Odell is, older, but, he's still talented. They signed Nelson Aguilar, and Mark Andrews, still exists. So, I mean, there's a lot of question marks surrounding how good Flowers can be. I wish he went to a better situation. I don't think it's a good landing spot for him. I think this is one we disagree on. But it's a wait and see. He could end up, being, the cream rising to the top. He ends up beating out all those guys, and he ends up becoming a great receiver. But I just don't have the faith in Baltimore right now to get that done.
All right, let's switch over to tight ends. Tight ends that we like the landing spots for. I'm going to start with Michael Mayer here in Las Vegas. He's it looks like he's the guy that they're looking to replace Darren Waller with, and he's someone who can come in and maybe not necessarily be the guy right off the bat year one, but I really like his landing spot. I think he's going to be a good fantasy commodity. I think the Raiders are kind of leaning on him to occupy that Waller role, which was such a key fixture of the offense. So I like Mayer in Las Vegas. He could have a decent fantasy season this year, along the lines of, say, like a Pat Freiermuth rookie year. Or it could take him, another year to just kind of gel and learn the ropes and such. So I like Mayer, definitely long-term. I'm still a little iffy on what he'll be able to do this year. What are your thoughts on Mayer?
Mayer is my TE1 from this class. I absolutely love him. I love his landing spot. I love the quarterback he's in. I mean, you have a quarterback there now that has experience throwing to a tight end in Garoppolo. You have a coach that, history has been about, involving the tight end a lot in the offense. Darren Waller had huge seasons when he was healthy. So basically, Meyer's just really a come in and plug and play. He should be TE1 from training camp, basically. As soon as he was drafted, he was on top of the depth chart. He doesn't really have much competition in the way of, targets besides Devontae Adams. So really, for me, it's a perfect situation for him. I think he comes in and immediately gets on and stays on the field because he's a better blocker than some of these other tight ends that were taken, like Dalton Kincaid. So I really think that he'll be the best tight end from this class.
And I mean, right now, the Raiders also signed Austin Hooper in the offseason. So like Hooper, Mayer's kind of coming in, doesn't know the offense, doesn't know the team. They're both coming in kind of, I don't want to say raw, but they need to learn. And so it'll be interesting to see how the Raiders will who are they going to lean on? The veteran in Hooper or the rookie that they want to succeed? And I think the preseason might tell us a lot of what's going to happen here with his situation. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about Dalton Kincaid. You mentioned him. The Bills jumped ahead of Dallas to take him in the first round, which was a brilliant draft move. He's a receiving tight end first. He catches the ball well. Can he block? Yes, but he's a better receiver than a blocker. And I mean, he's someone who could come in and be a real threat for that Bills offense. And it might take a couple weeks or maybe even half a year or so to get going. But I really like the fact that Kincaid landed in Buffalo. I think that's a great spot for any tight end, not even including the fact that Kincaid is one of the best tight ends in this class. So I like the fit with Buffalo for Kincaid, and I'm not really sure of anyone who doesn't like that.
I think he's going to be used more as a big slot. They don't really have a slot receiver. They're looking for that, weapon besides Stephon Diggs to kind of put pressure on defenses. And I think that's right in Kincaid's wheelhouse. I know that they gave Dalton Knox, a deal last year, but I don't think they're the same kind of tight end. I see Dalton Bucks staying in to block more, and Kincaid being used primarily as the receiving threat that he was drafted to be. So I think that it puts a lot of pressure on Buffalo to kind of, make it work with him because, we have those, Khalil Shakir and Gabe Davis are also there, but they have been inconsistent at best at times. So Kincaid has a chance there to step up and be that consistent number 2 option behind Stephon Diggs that the Bills have been looking for ever since Josh Allen pretty much got to Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. All right, One last tight end here that I want to talk about, and this is someone that you can kind of target as like the last pick in your rookie draft, and that's Zach Cuntz, who was drafted in the 7th round by the Jets. You know, he's a little bit more of a project type of player, but man, he's got the athletic skills. He's got that freak type of profile to him. So he's someone that you could potentially stash away. I'm not sure if he'll be developed in time for him to really appreciate Aaron Rodgers in New York. It's possible, but you know, he's the type of guy who could turn into something big. He just needs that a development, a couple of years or so. I'm curious on your thoughts on Cuntz.
I mean, I like him. I like him as a long-term option. He's definitely more of a stash guy. He's kind of raw as a prospect, but his athletic measurables are off the charts. I think he was, in terms of RA score, the number 1 tight end ranked out of like of all time since like 1980, whatever. So, you know, Tyler Conklin's there. Aaron Rodgers is bringing in pretty much every Packer over the last 20 years at receiver. I think he's going to, you know, sit behind Conklin, be able to develop. But once he gets on the field, he's going to be an athletic monster. I'm not saying that he's going to be, you know, those kinds of like a Vernon Davis type of athletic, because Vernon Davis was, you know, a much better prospect. But he's in that same vein. That's how I expect him to eventually end up if he develops properly.
Yeah, I mean, he's a potential gem, and that's kind of what you're looking for and as your last pick in the draft, or if he isn't even picked, as someone that you can pick up as a free agent, you know, later on. So just remember his name, Zach Cuntz. Tested off the charts at the combine, of course. Looked really strong, and he's at a position of scarcity at tight end. So, all right, well, that pretty much does it for our best landing spots here for fantasy purposes, dynasty and rookie drafts alike. So let us know what you think of these. Where are we wrong? Where are we right on? You know, let us know, and give us a subscribe, a like, and of course we appreciate that. It really helps out our channel. If you enjoy this content, we appreciate that. Majority of people watching this right now are not subscribers to the show, so do yourself and help us and go ahead and click that subscribe button, and we appreciate that. And thanks, Dan. This is a pleasure, of course, always talking with you about this stuff. We hope that it was helpful to you, and can continue to watch all of our Draft Brothers content that's coming. We're going to talk about these players and where they've landed, and of course the teams and how they have now kind of transformed, so to speak, as a result.
A ton of content
draft
coming
class.
your way. A ton of content.
Ton of content. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.